How lucky am I? That is how I'm feeling right now. That's what I'm asking myself right now after this conversation that I just had with Michael Schultz, the co-owner of Cursive New York and Cursive Home, two stores that are in Manhattan's West Village. And Michael and I just had such a great conversation. He's been in retail for over 30 years. He's super rooted in retail. And I asked him, what's stayed the same and what's different in retail after all of these years. We talk about some of the heavier things about decision making during feeling fear and panic and uncertainty in the world. What do you need to do? And he walks us through a situation that he had, that he made a decision out of panic and ended up being really terrible. And I love that he just shared that and pulled back the curtain. He also is doing some really cool things with Instagram. He just does it his way and he walks you through what he's doing and the success that they're seeing and the special segments that they have. And what I really love about it is it's so doable for everybody. You don't need some fancy framework. You'll learn that from Michael today. And then we also talk about tariffs. We're filming this in September. This will drop in October. And some of this is starting to hit now. And so we just kind of talk through some advice and what he's focusing on. So he's so fun and real. And I just really enjoyed this conversation and enjoyed talking to Michael. Before we dive in, here's a little bit more about my guest. Michael Schultz is co-owner and creative eye of Cursive New York and Cursive Home, both located in Manhattan's West Village. In addition, to mix it up, he owns the Tisch gift shop at NYU Langone Medical Center. They're doing a lot of cool things, as you'll hear, a lot of great retail experience. And so I'm really excited for you to learn from Michael today and just be inspired. All right, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Crystal Vilkaitis, the Wolf of Main Street, and this is Rooted in Retail. Michael, welcome to Rooted in Retail. I am thrilled you're here.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, this is going to be a great conversation. I have been looking forward to this because you are super rooted in retail. And before we dive in today, I'd love for you to take a couple minutes and share a little bit more about you and your retail journey.
Oh, okay. So I do this with my husband, and we actually met at a trade show in High Point, North Carolina. We were both working for other people, and we shared a showroom. And that's 30 years ago now. So I think I've been in this business for 33 years. Wow. I don't know how that happened. So we were working for other people, and then we both became unemployed, and we were like, well, if we were doing it for other people, we can just do it for ourselves. So we started a wholesale business we were manufacturing handmade greeting cards and stationery, amongst some kind of other things. And because of the jobs that we had before, we had been very lucky to be exposed to the best trade shows in the world and the best buyers in the world. And so we weren't going into it naively, although it's much easier to do it on somebody else's dime than it is to do it on your own dime.
Yes.
So our very first account we ever got was Barney's New York for our own, which we had both worked with independently, which was pretty amazing. And it grew and grew. We moved the business from San Francisco to New York City. And probably about 10 years into our wholesale business, we had decided that we wanted to open a retail store. So through word of mouth, we were invited to take a space inside of ABC Carpet and Home, which was our very first retail store that we had. And then a few years later, we opened in Grand Central Terminal. We've had a few out-of-town stores. We also do the retail for NYU for their hospital shop for the Langone location here in Manhattan. So It's been a long journey.
Yes. Yeah, you are. Like I said, you are super rooted in retail. It's probably wild, like how time flies, and you're doing some really cool things. So I want us to look back on these 33 years that you have been in retail, both as a shopkeeper and wholesale. And I would be curious to know, what's one thing about retail that's stayed constant and one thing that has completely transformed?
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, I think the constant thing is that the best stores, no matter what kind of store you have, the best stores are stores with a strong point of view. And a
Mm.
strong point of view from usually comes from the owners of that shop. And it's always been that way. There's a lot of talk about experiential things in stores, and it's basically just a new way of talking about what the very best of retail has always been. It's always a store is really just an experience. And the stronger the point of view of that shop, the more community you're going to build around it and the more successful it's going to be. So it's kind of always been that way. And I think it will always be that way into the future. And what's changed is, well, a lot has changed.
Yeah.
But I think the most interesting thing is the sort of the confidence of the consumer. I'm not talking about money confidence. I'm talking about buying confidence.
Mm.
There's a lot more second guessing. They need a lot more guidance into kind of what they're looking for. They're looking for reassurance. I'll just give a small example is we get a lot of people who will come into the store and they're looking for a new fragrance and they'll ask me what I like. And I'm like, well, I can tell you what I like, but it's more important. Like, what do you like? Are you a citrus person? Are you a floral person? Do you like woodsy? I think phones and technology has played a lot into that because they can text and FaceTime and take a picture and think about stuff in a different way than you ever could before.
Mhm.
So that it's challenging, and it puts the onus on us a little bit more to be more present in the shop and to be more knowledgeable about actually what we're selling.
Hmm. True. Well, and it makes me, when you were saying this, I'm like, I just feel like there's so many more options to your point of online. We're texting our friends, social media, that it feels so overwhelming that we just lose what we even want. What am I interested in? And sometimes we get so caught up in the trends, what everybody else is doing, that it's hard to know what I want. That's an interesting
Right.
observation.
And then I think that goes back to if you're shopping in a place that has a strong point of view, you're shopping there because you like their point of view. And so it makes it easier to be like, you know, well, I would recommend this if you like this. It's more likely to be successful. And you can't do that any other way than if you're shopping in person.
Yes, exactly. And then, Michael, I just want to confirm, when you say point of view, are you saying the experience, the brand, the vibe, like the whole package, the curated products? Like, is that what you're meaning by the point of view?
Yeah, like it's really a strong idea that's coming from the retailer about their idea of what retail is. We're all
Mm.
buying from the same people. We're all buying, the pool of things that we're pulling from has shrunk. And so stores are tending to look a little bit more and more like each other. But the more personality that the owners and the buyers can put into the store, yeah, and I'll just give you another example. Doug and I are both from the West, and we really love sort of Western woodland animals and skiing.
Oh,
And so we have a strong influence in the store of sort of a lot of Western animals, a lot of skiing stuff. And in the face of it, it makes no sense because we're in the heart of Manhattan where there is none of that stuff basically.
right.
But it attracts our customers who have, ski houses and who have places out west and have places upstate. And it's just a very personal point of view that
Hmm.
people are drawn to.
Yeah. Awesome. It's so good. Okay. I love it. I want to switch gears here a little bit because as I was prepping for this conversation, I was looking at your Instagram. We're going to talk about your Instagram too, because I feel like you're just doing such a great job. And here I am, and I'm like watching all your reels. I spent a lot of time on your Instagram, like more than I normally do, because it was so engaging. But you have some really great content on there. And there was a reel, and in the reel, you said fear and panic is very bad for business. And you shared a story about a decision that you made out of that mindset. I was glad that you made that reel. It felt very timely. It's very relatable. There's a lot of heaviness in the world in a lot of different aspects. And so as our listeners are going through a potential state of panic and fear, your advice in that video and just the story that you went through, I thought was really great. So do you mind sharing what happened and what you learned to help our listeners who might be facing some of those moments themselves?
Sure. So I'm doing this thing on Instagram where I'm trying to talk about business a little bit more. And one of the things tariffs, everyone's talking about tariffs right now. So I had made a reel talking about tariffs. And then I also think sometimes if you're talking about business, a lot of what gets left out is the real personal part of it and the real life application of sometimes what people are talking about. So we were talking like the fear and the panic around tariffs. And I was like, what's our biggest failure, that we've ever had? So Doug and I had decided after maybe 13 or 14 years of having our wholesale business and running retail on top of it, that it was way too much for us to do and something had to give. And so we decided that we were going to close our wholesale business. And it was successful. It was everything that you would have wanted, but it just wasn't serving us anymore. And in doing that, when we started to talk to people were like, oh my God, what are you going to do? What's your next thing? Are you going to, and it got in our heads about like, oh, we're losing something and we need to replace it. And so then this fear and panic set in of we need to do something and we need to do something now. So we hastily opened a store in a town that was like, an hour and a half away from us in a community we didn't know. The demographics looked good. The space was beautiful. It had on paper everything it should have worked. And it was the worst. It was the biggest failure. I mean, I can't even tell you how embarrassing it was to have been basically successful all along and then have something that was so public and it was so like, it was not working. It was not well received. And Doug and we realized what it was going to take to actually make it work. And neither one of us wanted to do that. So we basically decided to pull the plug after 6 months. And it was a very, very good lesson in that if we would have closed the wholesale business and taken a step back and taken a little bit of time to really think about what would be the right next move, we would have realized that it was doomed from the beginning and we shouldn't have done it. But making a decision out of fear can be really, really, really bad for business. And luckily we pulled the plug soon. So we failed fast. We got out of it. And we didn't, throw another $100,000 into the problem to try to fix the problem, which is another very, very good lesson. Sometimes it's just better to just cut your losses and run. And luckily our landlords there were very, very generous towards us. And so we didn't take that big of a bath on it. And it also didn't scare us or deter us from opening other locations. It just made us, take a step back, breathe. Like I said, if meditating is your thing, do a little meditation. Because really what we were trying to do in getting rid of the wholesale business was really to have more time to focus on our retail business, the ones that we had and the ones that were successful that could be more successful if we had the time and the energy to put into them.
Right. Yeah, it sounds like all of a sudden you made a really kind of a quick decision out of some of that fear. You panicked a little bit. We made this decision. Now we're spread too thin. And we just said this on a recent podcast episode, that you either win or you learn. I feel like through failures, we learn. Are they really failures? You learn a lot. It sounds like you learned a lot through that and got some good clarity. But to your point of just making a decision out of that panic mode is the wrong time to be making a decision.
Yeah. And it's so tempting because we're taught, and business is really built around action, right? You have to take action. If there's a problem, there's a solution to it, and you have to find out what that solution is, and you have to do it. And we're also very built as humans to do. Like we do something, do it. And when really the opposite of that is really what is more beneficial, is to just sit back and let it free up the time and the space in your mind and your life for that answer to come to you, which it will come to you. It's like if you're tapped into the universe, the universe is going to tell you. The universe was telling us already what to do. We just weren't listening to it, you know?
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. You have to listen to it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I was just thinking this morning, I was doing a little meditation and yoga, and I was like, there was a business for sale and a couple months ago, and my husband and I were really excited about it. And in that moment, it felt like this sounds so fun and so awesome. And like, oh my gosh, I see it. And I was excited. And I just saw like us buying this business and having another business. And then 2 days later, I forgot about the business. I was like, totally. Somebody asked me because I shared with a friend. They're like, oh, did you ever hear back from the realtor? I'm like, about what? Like, I just didn't even remember that I was interested. So I think that we as entrepreneurs, we're achievers. To your point, we want to act like go, go, go. But when you give some of the time and space, especially if you're in this pressure cooker, especially if things are heavy, you'll get better answers and just some more clarity when you give it some space. And I just love that you talked about that. Yeah. Are you looking to be the retailer that everyone knows and loves? If you are, we can help support you inside of the Independent Retailers Association. We have a lot of different tools that can help you grow your visibility, connect deeper with your customers to really create lifetime relationships. We've got training on marketing and social media kits to make social media so easy for you every single month. Plus, we have an amazing community inside that you can ask questions and get advice and share your wins. I'm in there, my team's in there, and all of our other hundreds of retail members. And at the pro level, you can tune in every other week to our Retail Pro strategy calls where you get access to incredible pros in the retail space who are experts in all aspects, from merchandising to sales to texting to becoming a destination to hearing from fellow retailers who are knocking it out of the park with their events. We have so much great content inside of the Independent Retailers Association, which we call Indera. So we have a couple of different levels that you can join, starting at just $25 a month. I would love to see you inside. This is a way for us to connect, go deeper, and really help grow your business so you can become the store that everybody knows and loves. We'd love to see you there. You can go to joinindera.com to learn more. That's joinindera.com. All right, let's get back to the episode. Okay, Michael. So let's talk about tariffs because, you know, it's a big part of our industry right now.
Yeah.
And we've only talked a little bit about it on the show, actually, but it's very top of mind for all of us. And you've been open about their impact on your Instagram. So from where you sit, how are tariffs shaping retail this year? And what's your advice for indie retailers trying to navigate these pressures?
So since the news broke like in April, so April to really up to like the 1st of September, there was just huge volatility and no stability. So depending on what you were doing and when you were deciding to do it, things were fluctuating so violently that it was really disconcerting and quite frankly unhinged. And so that's what got me into thinking about how do you handle yourself in times like this? Because there was this panic of, oh, we need merchandise. It's going to go up. We need to buy. There was a lot of talk online about panic buying. And it started really freaking me out, not necessarily because we were doing it, but because I was seeing other people doing it. And I was like, oh, this is bad. I mean, and it could compound the situation even worse if people are making quick and sort of hasty decisions to try to deal with the situation. So basically what we did is luckily we are funded. And so Doug and I are self-funded and we don't need to borrow money to do the things that we need to do. Not everyone can do that, but we were able to bring in a lot of stuff really early. So our basement has been full of Christmas ornaments since May. And, they're stacked, they're ready. We were able to bring in as much as we possibly could to try to beat all of the tariffs. So that's one aspect. Another aspect is they're really just hitting now. So I think we're recording this, it's in September. It's the reality has set in and everyone is starting to get the bills. And the reality, like I said, is like everything is going to go up. The American consumer is the one who's going to pay the price on this. us retailers, we have to figure out how we are going to pass that along and how we're going to communicate it to them. I personally think a very clear, if people ask, it's this is the reason why the price went up on this is it's either wholly imported or there's a component to it that is imported that is causing the prices to rise. It's very, clear and simple. It's a complicated political issue, but an economic issue, it's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, true. Very true.
The piece of advice that I go back to when times are tough or there's like situation like an economic downturn or whatever is really go back and think about why you started the store in the first place. Like, what was the impetus for you to open your shop? And Doug and I's was at the time, we felt that there were brands that were either not represented or underrepresented in our area, which was New York City, including our own. And we were like, why aren't we better represented? And so in thinking about tariffs, if our mandate is to bring in new and exciting things, then we're going to have to still deal with these tariffs. We're going to have to still import from the countries to get the stuff that we need to do. We're still going to need to buy from our core group of customers, wholesalers that we have. And so we'll have to balance out the retail costs with the impact that it will have on our business. And I would say to newer retailers is to just really focus in on why you're doing this, and you'll make the right decision about what you really need to be on your shelves.
Are you finding, and maybe it's too early since some of this is just starting to hit, but are consumers having pushback with the price increase in your stores?
A little bit. I mean, luckily we're in an area that isn't as economically sensitive, but I'm having a lot of conversations with people coming in and asking, is this happening to you? And, I think it's also really good if you can say, yes, and here is a thing, like this is just one of the things, like this is how it is actually impacted this. I mean, we did have a customer come in and he's like, I noticed this is a little bit more expensive. Is this tariffs? And I said, yes, that's tariff.
Yeah. Well, and I think depending on where our listeners live and just who their customers are, because I've had some different conversations both with retailers as well as just people in my life, that the consumers, some are not aware of what's going on and do think that China is paying the bill or wherever we're importing, and they're not realizing where this is actually coming from. And so there is some heightened emotions. There is some pushback. There's some education that needs to happen. And this is why I love, again, with you on Instagram, talking about what the impacts are and just having some education of behind the scenes of what's going on here. I think we need a little bit more of that transparency to help the consumer understand what this means for all of us.
And I think the younger generation of retailers are doing a much better job than the older generation of retailers, because I think their mindset is just slightly different about business and how they share business. I'll put myself into the older generation. We were brought up to hold things a little bit closer to our chest and to not rock the boat. And I really feel like there's a whole group of younger retailers who are doing a very good job of laying it out very specifically and in a very clear way for everybody to understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I've seen some really powerful TikTok videos actually of some young retailers doing that. And it's been inspiring and it's been cool to see them get out there and speak about it. So I'm glad that you're doing it too. I think that it's so needed. Let's shift gears and talk about Instagram, because I say to retailers all the time, even if you do walk and talks, just walk and talk, and you are doing this. You're on the streets in New York City, you're talking to your customers, you're just showing up, you're being real, you add humor. It's just a very authentic experience. It feels very refreshing. And so how has showing up so personally online influenced your connection with customers and the brand overall?
Well, it's really interesting because we only do brick and mortar. We do not have a website. And so a lot, I feel, of Instagram has become, people are selling products on Instagram. And I have always had this very uncomfortable relationship with that because if you DM me, I will ship you anything, anywhere. And we do that. But you can't go to the website and order anything that you see. And a lot of stuff is like, if I show a really cute card and people want them, it's a $6 card. And I don't know, I have a better use of my time than sending you a $6 card. I love you and thank you. And I'll guide you to another place where you can buy it. So it's been interesting for me to try to find my way around how to use Instagram in just a slightly different way. And I was never on camera or did anything before COVID, but during COVID, when Doug and I, all of our stores closed and we had no business, and his mom actually died during like the first month of COVID also. So it was a very dark and sort of weird time for Doug and I, and he's incredibly funny. And so I started doing knock-knock jokes where I would film myself and he didn't know I was filming. And I'd be like, Doug and I would tell him a knock-knock joke and he would have like, this great sarcastic answer to my knock-knock joke. And it just sort of started from there because then people started commenting and relating. And when we came back and we started rebuilding our lives in the West Village, it was exciting. So I started showing people, here's the stores and this is what we're doing. And I'm going to the flower market to buy flowers and here's the wallpaper. And it just became this really tight community of people who we have fairly high engagement, which I really love. There's nothing worse than feeling like you're doing something and you're just screaming into a void. And it's really helped to build, I would say maybe in the last 2 years, I'm shocked at the amount of people that will come from Des Moines, that'll come to the city and come in and and they'll be like, oh, you're that guy, I came to see your store. How's Slinky? How's Doug? Like, it's so interesting and it's so fulfilling because it just feels like an extension of the store for people who don't live in New York City and can't go. It does feel weird to put yourself out there. I'm incredibly self-critical of the way I look and the way I sound. But, it's just, this is me. You're going to see me, if you come into the store, this is going to be me too. So, and I actually really enjoy it. And I've really done it my way. I don't follow any formulas. I post when I want to post. I take breaks when I want to take a break. I try not to be on Instagram as much as a personal user as I used to be because I don't think it's actually healthy.
I know.
So, and I tell people, and I tell people, I'm like, if what I'm saying or what I'm doing is making you uncomfortable or if it's putting pressure on you or if it's making you feel bad, please feel free to unfollow me or mute me because that's the last thing I want to do. I don't have a perfect life. Tariffs have been a real struggle for me and it brought up a lot of, just personal things. And, for a few months, I wasn't very happy. So I felt disingenuous showing up on Instagram, being like, hey, I'm fabulous, and I'm like, yeah. I'm not doing well. But it's an amazing, social media is an amazing tool.
It is. And I think I love that you said that you won't post if you're not feeling it. It's on your terms. You're not following some sort of framework because I think some listeners might need almost that permission to take a break or to feel okay to not have to post every single day. I teach social media and I do say, talk to your customers every single day. But the thing is, if you can't show up that day, if you're not feeling like yourself, if you're not feeling authentic, you need a break. The most important thing is that you are taking care of yourself. Like social can be this amazing tool and it's there when you're ready to come back. Like it's not going anywhere. And I think that there's a lot of pressure to post. And if you just do it on your own terms, I've seen this time and time again. That's what's going to make it successful. If you're trying to follow like this grid and I'm going to post here and do that and do this, it gets so overwhelming. It takes the joy out of it. Like some of the fun that you're just talking to your customers spur of the moment. It just takes that creativity out of it and people don't get it done. And then they feel pressure and they feel guilt and they feel like they're falling behind. So just do it on your own terms and be you. That's what people are going to connect with and resonate with. And you just do a really good job of that.
And people want to see the person behind the store. It sounds weird, but they want to see where you're having a cocktail or who you're having dinner with or, we have also, I just sort of stumbled into a couple things with Instagram. So we have the sidewalk board, which changes every 2 or 3 days. So that's a built-in thing. All I have to do is video it, put some music on it, and that goes out the door. I also do my overheard stuff, and there's a never-ending supply of stuff that I hear in the store that I can post. And so I have these things that can sort of just fill in. Like if I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I don't, I was going to do this, but I don't want to do it. Then I have these other things that I can fall back on to do that still feed the machine in a way to get it to accomplish what I need to accomplish.
Yeah, you get something out there. You got to tell the listeners about the overheard series that you do.
So I started this thing about just conversations that I would overhear in the store, either things that people were saying to each other or things that like people were saying to me. And it was really in a way of, I don't think that people really understand retail very well. I think if you're not in retail, you don't understand it. It's like, they say like everyone should be a food server, and then you would understand, you would be nicer to food servers. And sometimes when people are in the store, it's like the staff just does not exist. Like we're just not there. And so they'll say things that are quite frankly, sometimes just shocking that you would say in public. And I was taking it all in, like I'm absorbing all of that in. And I'm like, ooh, I need a way to get to like a catharsis, a way to get rid of this.
Yeah.
And so I just decided, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna put the age of the person, 20 something. This is what they said, and let everybody else put up, to their imagination. And it's really interesting because I never put if it's a male or female. Sometimes I'll put like mother-daughter or something, but the assumptions that people make, because I get a million DMs. That's the thing. Like I get DMs, sometimes it's insane. If they're really good, I'll get a million DMs. And people will just make all these assumptions about like who the person is that's saying this. And I will tell you, if you are doing that, most of you are wrong most of the time.
How funny. Oh, I mean, talk about engagement. Have you ever had a customer DM you and was like, that was me, and they knew you were posting about them?
No, and I get this question asked all the time. Yes, they are real true. I mean, I try to write them down. I'm trying to remember what they said and write it down. So maybe a word is changed here or there. And I usually wait. If it's really sort of juicy or something, I'll give it like a month. So maybe the person who said it would forget that they had said it. And what I get more is people will come into the store and they'll be like, now, Mom, don't say anything because he's listening and you're going to end up on their Instagram. Or people want to be on the Instagram. So they'll come in and they'll say something and they'll kind of wink at me. And I'm like, I know you're just doing this because you want to end up on the overheard.
Oh, that is so good. Oh my gosh, I love it. See, that's a perfect example of just being you and being authentic and getting content out there. And I love that you say, like, you have that to fall back on. You have the board to fall back on in those moments where you're not feeling like you want to be visible, so you can still show up. I mean, it works for you, and you're doing a great job.
Yeah, I've kind of made it my own.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I hope all of our listeners do too. All right, Michael, are you ready for the resilience round?
Sure.
Okay. Best business book.
Oh, so I don't read business books. I much prefer books on creativity. So my book that I just finished, which I love, is Rick Rubin's book, A Creative Act. It's amazing.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Yeah. I will check that one out. Best retail technology, like an app or software?
Oh, well, I have to go with Instagram.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah.
Yep. How do you keep up with the ever-changing retail landscape?
I think that I'm just completely immersed in it all the time. Like this morning, I was at a trade show. I went to the DNA and bought scarves for next spring. I read Business of Fashion. I try to stay tuned. I go into as many shops as I possibly can. I reach out to my friends in the industry. We have a big DMing chain back and forth. I just joined a retailer advisory board, which has been really, really fascinating because I think there's like 30 or something retailers from around America on it. I live in a very small microcosm of, Manhattan retail, and it's really cool to see what people are doing and how they're handling things in, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and Bozeman, Montana, and Mississippi. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, Totally. Beth Rich must be on that board
Yes,
if you're
she
saying
is.
Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She's a
I love it.
firecracker.
Oh, she's amazing. We've had her on the show and she's so great. So
Yeah.
what a fun board. If you had to start your business all over again, what's one thing you'd do differently?
I wouldn't listen to people when they tell you that something is non-negotiable. Like when you're doing leases or contracts of any kind, a lot of times people will say, "Oh, yes, we are, these are the terms and it's either yes or no." And that's a negotiating tactic, which took me a while to figure out. You can always go back and negotiate. Even if you don't get what you wanted, at least you tried, and they can always just say no.
Exactly. That's the worst thing, right?
And you can always say no. That's the other part of it, because if it's not going to work for you, then it's not going to work. It's not the right thing.
Right. So true. Michael, what do you think the future of independent retail looks like?
I think it looks amazing. I think that multi-brand, small, independent retailer is the wave of the future. It's the wave of the past and the wave of the present. But I think that the more stores that open that, again, have strong points of view, that you have stronger communities, you have stronger main streets, you have stronger neighborhoods. And I think I think there's a new wave of young retailers out there that are going to find their way and realize that you can have a wonderful life doing this. You can make money doing this. You can make a lot of money doing this. You can travel. There's a lot of perks. I mean, it's hard work, but you're going to work hard anyway. So,
right. Might as well do something you enjoy doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Well said, Michael. How can people connect and learn more about you?
So the best way is through Instagram. Each of the stores, Cursive New York is the Instagram for one, and Cursive NY Home is for the home store. They're kind of two different vibes. The home store is more pretty pictures and objects, and the Cursive is me.
So good. We will link to those as well. Thank you so much for being here, sharing your wisdom and just being you. I love following you online. It's been so nice to connect with you at New York Now and just have you on the show now too. So thank you, Michael.
Oh, thank you very much. I really, really, really appreciate it.
Awesome. Amazing. Everyone, remember that I'm rooting for your success. Have a great week ahead. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Rooted in Retail podcast. It means the world to me to have you here. If you find value in this show and you listen on an iPhone, if you could leave a review on the Apple Podcast app, that would be amazing. And if you watch YouTube, if you're a YouTube subscriber, we film this. And so if you rather watch the show, you can also do that over on YouTube. Again, thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.